You're listening to Media Savvy Moms with Melody and Marilyn, a podcast by Parents Aware, your go-to for information on how to talk to kids and teens about pornography and healthy sexuality.
Hello, everyone. The holidays are approaching, right? Well, wait a second. Who am I kidding? They are here. They are upon us. And I may be in denial, but I really need to get cracking on my Christmas shopping. Is that something that you stress about? I do, and I don't know why. Okay, it probably has something to do with budgeting time and finances, of course, but you would think that after 25 years of being a mom, I might have this figured out. No, it sneaks up on me every single year. And for some reason, I just worry about getting my kids the perfect gift. But I don't even know what that means. Is it the latest and the greatest gadget? Is it something that they want? Or should I be more concerned about being thoughtful? And of course, there's the whole tech conversation. How do I get my kids the right tech and keep them safe and secure? And what if I have a bunch of kids, which I do? Should each gift I give them be individualized? What am I teaching my kids with the gifts they receive? Am I overthinking everything? Oh yes, for sure. Well, my friends, 2020 has caused us all enough stress, and I think it's high time that I got over my holiday shopping conundrums. So today we're going to talk about what really makes the perfect gift for kids. And in that, we're going to discuss the value of celebrating traditions and making memories in this media-saturated world. And finally, we are going to discover how to choose tech-friendly gifts with safety in mind. But before we jump into any of that discussion, I want to remind you that there is a free PDF available with our podcast show notes today. It is the quick guide to safer screen habits, and this guide is designed to help you and your family start to have those open conversations that will help you recognize and set priorities around things that are most important to you, so that when you and your children turn to tech, because we all do, there's purpose and conscious decision making behind it. When we keep our priorities in mind, everything can fall into its proper place. We aim to have tech and screen time enhance our lives rather than something that distracts and overwhelms. We always want to strive for that happy balance and safe use of technology. So again, to claim your quick guide to safer screen habits, go to our show notes for this episode at parentsaware.info/podcast. Okay, so what does make the perfect gift? Growing up, gift giving in my home was decidedly low tech and met some basic criteria for practicality. And now that could have something to do with the decade I was born in. My dad, however, was an industrial arts teacher and my mom an avid crafter. Together, they would delight friends, families, and neighbors with unique and handmade gifts every year. Time and effort was the resource that they spent, and it worked. On a very low budget, it seemed that there was a gift for anyone and everyone. Being part of this kind of Santa's workshop had its own magic too. Our home was a buzz of activity at Christmas time. And honestly, I look back in amazement and wonder how my parents did and still do this. Now, as kids, we did not go without. Fun but modest toys along with clothes seemed to be the most common gifts under our tree. Occasionally, there was a big family gift or experience that became the main event. And every now and then, Santa would come through with our truest heart's desire. But whatever gift we got, it seemed my parents carefully considered the residual effect of that gift. Now, that's not something I recognized as a child, but looking back, I can see it now. For example, I don't know how old I was when I first put an automatic Kodak camera on my wish list. Oh yeah, we are talking 80s cutting edge technology here. But year after year, I would find myself surprised and confused, and let's be honest, a little irked when no camera showed up. What I hadn't considered was my small weekly allowance was not going to support what was then a fairly expensive hobby. I didn't have the means to pay for the film, nor the cost of developing it. And my parents, although they never did give an explanation, probably wanted to wait a few years before financially investing in my skills as a budding photographer. Eventually, I got the camera. According to an article that appeared in the New York Times a few years ago, there is an actual science behind the art of gift giving. What research has discovered is that we stress way more than we need to about finding the perfect gift. There is a spectrum, apparently, and you don't have to be overly creative or original to get there. Small gifts can have a really big impact, and it's okay to give the same gift to more than one person on your list. It seems like my parents were onto something, whether they knew it or not. Now, that's not to say you can't go in for the wow factor, but when you do, make sure there's longevity and usefulness attached to the gift. Kids get really frustrated with gifts that they can't use right away or maintain, for example, a Kodak camera, or worse, gifts that break and malfunction before long. Mom and Dad, for the record, the Barbie camper was the delight of my 10-year-old heart, and I will love you always for it and for those adventures it took me on with some of my best friends. So I like to be sentimental, and I do try to find gifts that match the recipient, but maybe I'm trying too hard. What is your secret formula? How do you find balance in gift giving? It's interesting to note that research also shows that the thought that goes into the gift usually has more benefit for the giver than it does the receiver. And of course, that's not a bad thing. We want to find joy in gift giving, and I think we want to pass that joy along to our kids too. We just don't want to lose sight of the thoughtfulness by piling on added stress. It's not worth it. A thoughtful gift does not have to be totally unexpected. If it's something that's on your child's wish list and it meets your gift-giving criteria, then go for it and call it done. Speaking of lists and formulas, when getting gifts for kids, try this. And I wish that I had found this so much sooner. Maybe you do a version of it already, but I think it's worth reviewing. Get them something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read. So something they want could be a toy, a tech item, or maybe an experience, tickets to an event that they'd like to go to. It's usually the big item. And then something they need could support a hobby they play, or sports they do, or some of their special interests. And something to read doesn't have to be limited to a book. That could be a magazine as well, or comics, or whatever your kids are interested in. And I love this list because it's not all about the latest and the greatest and what do I have to get that's hot this year. There's a lot of practicality to it, but there's also thoughtfulness and plenty of room for individuality and creativity to come through. And most importantly, this list supports what I think is so important, and that is living a balanced life in this tech and media saturated world. Tech is fun and great, and we're going to get to talking about ways to gift that in just a moment. But the gift of finding joy in reading, in hobbies, in play and experience, even fashion, is going to help kids learn to find their own path to health and balance and individuality. So the perfect gift for kids is one that they like and will use. It's perfect because it checks those two boxes, and it's perfect because it shouldn't take too much effort to find. You'll notice when I get talking about the holidays, I get super nostalgic. And it's for good reason. These are meant to be special days, special events in the year that stand out from our routine. And with that in mind, let's not underestimate the gift of time and memory. Now, I know that sounds terribly cliche, but it doesn't make it less true. Holidays are a chance to create and carry on traditions that help form a child's identity. And they connect that identity to the larger family system. We may not know why we do everything that we do over the holidays, and your traditions could be vastly different than mine. But nonetheless, our family rituals of gathering, gift giving, eating, and sharing stories help build a memory bank for our kids that they will draw upon throughout their adolescence and well into adulthood. The significance of building memories should not be overlooked as a means of facing the challenge of raising kids in a media-saturated world. Think of this as a time to step back, reflect, and regroup. And yes, I totally get that part of those rituals may be throwing a bunch of cousins in a playroom for a video game extravaganza. I'm not suggesting that this look like a Norman Rockwell painting from 1945, but keep it real, keep it nostalgic at the same time. Every opportunity you have to connect with your children's grandparents, to family traditions, and to stories of the past will help them form a strong personal identity, and that can lead to greater self-esteem. How cool is that? In a few weeks, I'm going to share on the podcast a tradition that my mother started in our family about 12 years ago. And this tradition is all about passing down memories. I won't go into details here. I'll keep you in suspense, but it really has become the highlight of our Christmas celebrations. We still love gift giving. And so now let's go back to the more commercial side of finding the perfect gift for kids. Maybe tech is high on your gift giving list this year. Maybe your kids have their eye on a new gaming system or a personal device, and you really want to deliver. In that case, your question is not how to find the perfect gift, but how to ensure that your kids have the safest experience possible with the tech that they do receive. When our kids were young, we got our first big gaming console as a Christmas present. And oh my gosh, they were ecstatic. We used that for years to come until we replaced it with another and then another. I had stressed beforehand if this was really the right thing to do. I worried about the addictive nature of video games. How could we manage this? Would it cause more contention and fighting among brothers? Because we have all boys. How could I, who knew so little about video games and had little interest in playing them, make sure the games we got our kids supported our family values and were age appropriate? Fortunately, my husband stepped up to the challenge. In fact, I'm pretty sure he was eager to try out the new technology as much as they were. So despite my initial reservations, we determined that it was the right time to mentor our kids to have fun with the video game experience. But as I've already mentioned, we were also particular about the kind of games we would bring into our home. They had to be fun, family friendly, and have longevity. I didn't want to pay big bucks to have a game be completed in an afternoon. I wanted this to keep their attention for a good while. And whenever possible, we wanted our games to be multiplayer so that it was a social experience and not an individual experience. Just because a game was popular among their peers did not mean that we had to get it. Back then, I was mostly concerned about the content and how much time my kids were spending in front of screens. And if they were getting equal time on the one shared device that we had. I had all sorts of schedules and rules around how we were going to use our video games. And in hindsight, some of those may have been just a little ridiculous, but I was doing what I thought was best with the information I had, and you will too. Today, there are even more things to consider than screen limits, however. Gaming consoles are portals to the internet. Most games today include chat features. And of course, this can be an amazing way to connect friends together, which is hugely useful in our current circumstances of COVID. But if not monitored and set up correctly, this portal is also a way for the world to have access to your child. And it's also a way for your child to stumble across and have access to dangerous internet content, including hardcore pornography. So just as my parents did when I was a kid, my husband and I have carefully considered the residual effects of the gifts we give our kids, especially if those gifts are tech related. If tech is on your list, I want you to go back and refer to a conversation that we had with Sarah Siegand this time last year. It's episode number 122 called Tech for the Holidays. And it's a delightful conversation. In it, she gives so many tips on choosing the right tech that will function well within your safety parameters. Unfortunately, it's just not a one-size-fits-all answer. And no matter what tech you choose, Sarah recommends opening it before gifting it to your child. We want to remember that every app-enabled device usually comes with preloaded apps, and those apps have some sort of backdoor browser access to the internet baked right in them. So you don't have to have a browser on the device for your children to access the internet. So take the tech device out of the box, go through the system, and set up all the parental controls the way you want them to be. Eliminate any preset apps on the device that you don't need, want, or that you have no idea how to protect. Sarah explains that you can also go into the settings and turn off or blacklist known apps you don't want your child to have access to. Depending on their age, that might be popular social media apps. You can disable any of these at the device level, so that's really good news. And once that device is set up to your liking, then go ahead and put it back in the box, wrap it up, confident that everything is good to go. Your kids will be able to enjoy their devices as soon as they open them, and you can have a little more peace of mind on a day that is already incredibly busy. Now, if you're giving tech, I also think it would be good to review episode 236, Tech Safety 101, Routers, Filters, and Parental Controls. In this show, Chris McKenna of Protect Young Eyes runs through the essentials of internet safety. He explains all the things we need to do in a way that is so approachable and easy to understand. But what I love most is that we are 100% in agreement that the best protection for kids online is the relationship that we help them develop with their tech. What it comes down to for Sarah, Chris, and us here at the Media Savvy Moms podcast is that we want you to make tech a family experience. It's just way too easy to get caught up in all the buttons, lights, games, and interaction as individuals. And that's when our kids become most vulnerable to dangerous content. Download and use the quick guide to safer screen habits and reinforce with your children and teens that this is a team effort, a family effort, that you're in this together, and that by mindfully using all the technology we have and all the tech devices we have, they'll have more fun, they will stay safer, and they will be able to build better relationships. There is no set it and forget it, and now the internet is safe filter. But if we can see technology as something to use and enjoy within the context of a larger set of priorities, then all those filters and parental controls we install will be more effective. So to recap, the perfect gift for kids is something that they will enjoy right away and preferably use over and over again. It doesn't have to be complicated or terribly original. It doesn't have to be the latest and greatest. Use the formula: something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read. Also, don't underestimate the value of memories and rituals as a gift. Kids with a strong sense of personal identity tend to have higher self-esteem and do better in a media-saturated world. And finally, when choosing a tech gift or any gift for the holiday season, consider the residual effect of that gift. Make sure that internet-connected devices are set with appropriate parental controls and monitoring. Make tech a family experience. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to leave you with our weekly challenge, which is to bring all of these concepts together by downloading and reviewing our quick guide to safer screen habits. Make your holiday shopping list. Don't overthink the perfect gift, and go make lasting memories. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Media Savvy Moms podcast. For detailed show notes and links to any of the resources mentioned today, visit parentsaware.info. To connect with us on social media, find us on Instagram at Media Savvy Moms and on Facebook and Twitter at Parents Aware. We would love to get your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast. Until next week, let's keep talking.